and move on to the regular meeting for the Fall River Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors. Rosie, when you have an opportunity, please give us a roll call here.
Director Cox.
Here.
Director Creel.
Here.
Director Gallagher.
Yeah.
Director Pimentel.
Here.
And Chair Nunez.
Here. There's nothing to report out of closed session tonight. I'll now ask for any agenda modifications for consideration from staff. Okay, seeing none, now welcome any public comments on matters not on tonight's healthcare district agenda. Okay, Rosie, any raised hands online?
No hands raised online.
Okay, I'll close down the public comment and go on to comments from board members. Any comments from our board members? All right, seeing none, I will move on to our consent calendar. I believe we have 3 items on our consent calendar for tonight's meeting. Number 1 is our minutes approval for our March 26th meeting. The second one is our Chief Financial Officer monthly financial performance update, which we received a full presentation in the hospital board meeting. And number 3 is the Fall River Valley Healthcare District project board member appointment approval. This is building off of the previous presentation that we received from the Fall River Valley Healthcare District project, as we all know it now as the Watsonville Community Hospital Foundation, from our previous meeting about 2 new potential board members for their board by the name of Catherine Barr and Carla Ramirez Lomax. Any questions about these 3 items before we open up to public comment? Okay, seeing no questions from the board, I'll open up to public comment. Rosie, any hands raised online? Wish you to speak on these items?
No hands raised online.
Anyone wishing to speak on these items in person? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for an appropriate motion on the consent calendar.
I'll move approval on consent. That is a very nice agenda with a really cool looking logo.
I'll second.
Sorry, who was the second?
Gallagher.
Thank you. Directors Pimentel and Gallagher. I'll take a roll on this item. Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Creel.
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yeah.
Director Pimentel.
Yes.
Chair Nunez.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to our discussion items. We'll start with item number 4. It's our interior LED lighting conversion with American Energy Partners approval. Matt, I believe you said we had a presentation.
We do, thank you. So we're bringing before you Michelle Murphy, who is with American Energy Partners, and asking you to approve a project that will convert our interior lighting from our fluorescent lighting to more energy efficient LED lighting, which will result in savings both on the energy side as well as the supply side, as bulbs got more expensive with the California changes to fluorescent requirements. So Michelle Murphy is going to give a brief presentation, a little bit of background.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Mako. I'm Michelle Murphy. I work with American Energy Partners, part of the PG&E Energy Watch program. The Energy Watch program is facilitated by the CPUC, the California Public Utility Commission, and every business that pays an electric or gas bill pays fees every month that go into a fund. And if you take money out of the fund, then you get your money back. But if you don't, then other businesses do. About 6 years ago, Matt and Robin and I worked on the exterior lighting for the hospital, and we did all of the parking lot lights, changed them to LED. They pay for themselves in a short time because they use a lot less power than bulbs. And now the inside of the hospital could use to be done. Governor Newsom just outlawed LED lights, so you won't even be able to buy them in California anymore. Or I'm sorry, fluorescent lights. What's he done now? I love fluorescent lights, so it's going to be a lot more difficult to get them. And so PG&E is willing to pay for all. Well, actually, you're not gonna use the program, but if, some businesses can use PG&E on-bill financing, which is how we did the last project. However, with this project, you will start seeing your energy savings immediately, because you're going to use, I guess, bond money to do the project. So the annual energy savings by switching to LED will be $158,973. And so over 10 years, that's $1,282,842. So the payback on this is only 1.9 years. So great bang for your buck, plus everyone's going to be able to see better. Yeah, we've worked with all kinds of medical facilities, Pebble Beach, Dole Foods, Del Monte. I've been working as a PG&E trade pro for 7 years. I feel like I know the hospital like pretty well. I have every map that you can imagine. And we really counted every single bulb right down to the like showers and closets. So we know what needs to go in. It will happen in an orderly fashion over a short period of time as we can do it. Later on, we'll be proposing also retrofits to the HVAC units. Anywhere where we can save energy, that's what we do. And I know you're looking at putting solar in. What we always say is you want to reduce before you produce. You want to be using as little power, as little energy as possible, because then you'll need a much smaller solar array. Sorry, I didn't really go, but thank you. I hope everyone can.
You're a little busy in the middle of the presentation. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's pretty basic stuff. You switch to LED, we record the burn hours, the wattage of all the bulbs. We know how much energy you're going to save based on your hours of operation and your wattage. And so we're happy to help you guys. Worked with you for a long time. I heard on the radio after we had done all the counting of the lights about the bankruptcy, and I was like, oh no. So I'm happy to be back here now.
Thank you, Michelle.
Are there any questions?
Any questions for Michelle or for Matt on this project?
I think you're a local company, right? Local.
We're local
Yeah,
in
in our-
Monterey, yeah,
Yeah.
based in Monterey. I live up in Felton.
Fantastic. Alex, I can't see you, but do you have any questions for Michelle or for Matt?
No, I was just shocked by how much we'll save by simply switching the lights out. So that was amazing to see, but otherwise, no.
So was I. Any other questions there? Okay, I do have to open up to public comment. Rosie, any raised hands online for public comment on this item?
No hands raised online.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak about this item, please?
Yeah, Jim Anderson, I just had a question. Are they considered full spectrum lights? A few years ago, there was a big push about full spectrum lights, so for indoor facilities for fluorescent. It's more like natural light, supposed to be softer, easier on the eyes, less stressful for people working in that environment.
It's like daylight, and we would probably use 4000 K, which is about like this. You wouldn't want it to be too blue, which is too much for people, but you won't want it to be too yellow, especially rooms where you need to see. But yeah, and we also, the magnetic ballasts are no longer in operation, and working under magnetic ballasts has been something that people have complained about. So it's a
Thank
little healthier too.
Thank you for answering the question.
Sure.
Any public comments? Anyone, any other comments? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for any final comments or questions, and also entertain a motion.
When, you get this, when would the work start? When
As soon as I get the agreement signed, we would just, as soon as the electrician could make time in the schedule. Several days.
I'll happily move recommendation.
Second.
Pimentel and Gallagher, correct?
Great.
Thank you. I'll take a roll on this item. Director Cox,
Yeah.
Director Friel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yes.
Director Pimentel,
Yes.
and Chair Nunes.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm really happy to continue to work with you. And Matt, thanks for your work on this. And I would say the first of many Measure M projects to come, but we already used money to buy the property. So many more to come after that. So thank you so much.
Thanks, and I would just like to say, I didn't realize about the Medicaid cuts. I try to stay abreast of things, but I'm shocked and appalled and sad about that. And I'm glad that at least I can do something that'll save money, because well, you can't
Right.
bring in more business, but you can't stop the cuts, you can at least lower your spending.
Help spread the word.
I'll stay after if anyone wants to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 5, and this is the election of the Santa Cruz Local Agency Formation Commission Special District members. Steve?
Yeah, so thank you. So at the March meeting, this body helped vote for the seats towards the independent special districts, which have the opportunity to assign seats on LAFCO, the Local Area Formation Commission. The vote in March, which we did get in time for the deadline of our vote, and then all of the other independent districts in the community voted as well, and there was a tie. And so today we have a runoff in that election. So one's regular seat currently held by Jim Anderson of the Felton Fire Protection District, and one alternate seat currently held by Ed Banks of the Pajaro Valley Public Cemetery District. Both have terms that end in May 2025. So we have the opportunity to vote or the board has the opportunity to vote today in the runoff election, which for the regular seat would be between Jim Anderson, the incumbent of Felton Fire Protection District, and Lonnie Faulkner of Central Fire District. And vote for one alternate member seat between Ed Banks, the incumbent from the Pajaro Valley Cemetery District, and Lonnie Faulkner from the Central Fire District. And you have candidate statements in your packets that you hopefully had an opportunity to look at. And we can discuss or pass the motion. And if the board does pass the motion and vote on these members, then I will submit this ballot tonight because the deadline is tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
I do understand that we have some of the applicants for the positions here with us tonight. I'd like to give them an opportunity to speak during public comment, but before we do that, do we have any questions about the process or the decision that's here before us from the board or staff? No. Alex, no? Okay, I'll open it up to public comment. I'll start first online. Rosie, any raised hands online wishing to speak public comment?
No hands online.
Yes. Anyone wishing to speak in person, please? And you can speak from the podium, Jim.
Chairman, board, I'm Jim Anderson.
Standard 2 minutes, Jim, but thank you, yes.
Pardon?
It's a standard 2 minutes.
Okay. You have my application in front of you, and you can see the different boards I've sat on. You'll notice I've sat on most of them for a long time. I'm the incumbent, and because of the way the board changes out between the cities and the county, I'm actually the longest sitting member with most of the institutional memory on the department or the commission. So I'm not a public campaigner, so this is kind of new to me. But I've sat on the Felton Fire Board since 1999. I've been a Felton fireman since 1973. I've sat on LAFCO since 2006. I've sat on the County Substance Abuse Commission until last year when it was dissolved. And Medicaid and stuff is very important to the health substance abuse community. And when they made some changes where more people could get benefit from that, it was instrumental in getting a lot of people into the system and stuff. So I'm on the Santa Cruz County redevelopment oversight committee. We're paying off all the debt that was incurred over the years when there were redevelopment agencies. And I sat on the county sheriff's advisory for 2 years instead of 1. I was out of state for an extra year. I'm also a previous wine owner. We started our winery 11 years ago in Watsonville here on Hanger Way as a co-op, and we sold it last year. We went from 3 barrels back 11 years ago to about 140 barrels. We sold it, so that's quite a thing. And I'm the caretaker for the last 9 years for the Cult Cemetery, so I do all the functions, sell plots, dig the graves, set the headstones, mow the grass, you name it, I do it. I'm a lifelong county resident, so I have 3 adult daughters. 2 live in the area, 1 lives up north.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
And anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Like additional questions.
I'd like to start a motion to that this board would support and vote for Jim Anderson and Ed Banks. Say Jim, been a long time community member, volunteer in the community for a long time. I've appreciated the work that has been doing with fire consolidation in particular. It's really smart. And I think it's been on a really good trend, and I want to keep seeing that going forward. So I'm really proud of all the work that was doing. I want to keep that. Ed Banks, just he's from here, he's volunteer or anything I've ever seen. And he just to have somebody who's from the community, loves this community, always advocate for the community. So
If I can add one thing, and he's one of the alternates that makes his way to every meeting. And not every alternate does that, so just.
That doesn't spread. So that's my motion.
Okay, and do we have a second, and then we can have some discussion after that, on the motion if we'd like to. And that is to vote for, Jim Anderson for,
Regular members.
for regular membership, and then the regular member seat, and then the alternate, for my good friend Ed Banks.
I'll second.
So did we have a first as Pimentel or as Nunez?
That was me coming down.
And then Alex, you second that. Okay, got it. Thank you, Director Cox, Director Field. All right, I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox,
Oh,
sorry, more discussion? Sorry.
yeah,
sorry.
any discussion? No problem. Any discussion on this item, please?
I thought all the candidate statements were great. Jim, no, so. I don't know any of the 3 personally. I've been incredibly impressed with Lonnie Faulkner's presence here, her statement, the cogency and the pertinence and energy of her perception, I think, about the situation. So that would be my.
Yeah, I just to add to that, I am too impressed with Bonnie and the way that she looks at things. I think for me, understanding the challenges that are before LAFCO in terms of fire consolidation in the district throughout Santa Cruz County, I really want someone who has been at the table before, understands the LAFCO process, and can help lead us through that. There's a lot of difficult, I think, discussions and difficult conversations to be had with several fire protection districts in our county over the next few years. There's already news that 3 of our major fire protection districts are looking to consolidate possibly into 1, which is typical for counties that are much bigger than our size, let alone a county that's our size of 270,000 people. So I think that all 3 candidates bring really great experience to the table, and I'm going to be supporting the motion that's in front of us right now. I agree, Jim. Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, now please roll call, Rosie.
Yes. Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Friel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yes.
Director Pimentel,
Yes.
And Chair Nunez.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That will bring us to item number 6, and, we do have, yes, I believe Dr. Gabriel Cox, has, an announcement. If you'd like to recuse yourself, or Steve, would you like to take this up for this discussion as to why Dr. Cox?
Yeah, absolutely. We are engaging in a conversation about an external partnership proposal from Salud Para la Gente, where Dr. Gabriel Cox works. So she's going to recuse herself for this part of the discussion, and we'll go get her afterwards. Do we have the ability to pull up the slide deck? It's okay. Thank you so much. We live? Sweet, thank you. Right, so I'm going to give a little bit of a background on the process here, and then I'm going to hand it over to our ad hoc committee members for the external partnerships work to talk about the proposals that we received in response to the RFP and the motions that are here on the table for what the ad hoc committee is recommending to the board that we do. So yeah, this is working. So background, if you'll recall, the value of expanding and strengthening our partnerships has been part of our strategy since the district was found. So in September 22, the district was formed, and in July 23, there was a strategic plan that was published, and it mentioned strategic partnerships a few dozen times throughout the course of the strategic plan, that this is an important thing, that we have existing strategic plans that are important to strengthen, and that we should look at others to continue to strengthen the long-term sustainability of the hospital and the district. And it's sort of one of the 3 legs of the stool of long-term sustainability for the hospital. First is purchasing the hospital and creating the healthcare district. The second was passing a bond measure, which we did. And the third is partnerships, so that we can create efficiencies, allow for expanded services for our patients, and maintain community ownership. That's a big important piece of this. So in March of 24, so 13 months ago, the board created the External Partnerships Ad Hoc Committee to explore potential external partnerships for the benefit of the district and the hospital. So that ad hoc committee meeting, that ad hoc committee has now had 14 meetings. First one was in April of 24, engaged with the community to craft the guiding principles, presented a number of times to government and other community partners to discuss the process and to get feedback on the guiding principles and the RFP itself, which was then sent out into the world and to local healthcare partners in August. And in October, late October, we started to receive responses to the request for proposal. And since then, we've been engaged in sort of reviewing those proposals and understanding what the implications might be and what we might do with those proposals. So those guiding principles, Tony, you want to start? Yeah, I want to start here, and do you want me to do this, or you want to?
No, you can click away over there, and you tell me when to do it. So if you remember, just for the board, and I believe, Alex, this is before your time, so just a little, a brief history lesson. When we started this process, we wanted to make sure that we were getting our direction from our community, also from our staff and all of the other partners that made up what we know as Watsonville Community Hospital and the healthcare district today. And so what we did is we went out and asked all of our partners and asked everyone that I just mentioned, what are the guardrails? Like, what is important for us to continue to maintain this vision that we had together of creating a locally owned, community led and operated hospital and healthcare provider in the Potro Valley, Santa Cruz County, and the Greater Central Coast. And so we did outreach with our community partners, with our with our staff. We had, I believe, several small kind of group sessions, and then we had a larger presentation to more staff as well, just to understand what are the guardrails for us as we continue to go through this process, what was acceptable to us, what was not, from a potential partnership, and where did we want to go, and how did that align with the vision of the hospital that we as a board have, and then also with the administration, and then with our community partners and just our general community. So what we did is we came up with our guiding principles. If you'll remember, we reviewed those, I believe, back in August of last year. And before we put together the finishing touches on the RFP and sent it out to our community partners. And the main principles of the guiding principles were that we wanted to maintain community ownership and oversight of the district and the hospital. And that we also, it included that we did not want to change the name and outsourcing of our staff and our senior leadership. So truly keeping us an independent healthcare provider that that put the community need first above all else. And so I can take this and then maybe hand it back to you after. Sure. So we received 4 responses to the RFP. I believe we sent it out to 6, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 7 or so. Yeah.
7 or so. Potential healthcare partners that were truly invested in this community already. We were selective, but also ambitious about the folks that we sent it out to. And we received 4 responses, one from Salud para la Gente, one from Common Spirit, also operates Dominican Hospital. The third one was from Sutter Health, and then another one from Kaiser Permanente. And they all proposed a little bit something different. Number 2 and number 3, one from Common Spirit and Sutter were similar, although and the proposals from Salud para la Gente and from Kaiser Permanente varied, were a little different from those. So one of the presentations, or one of the proposals that was submitted to us was from Salud para la Gente, and that was for us to partner with them to pool our resources for human resources. So that included recruiting, staffing, labor relations, union negotiations, compensation, and benefit administration, all the sort of nuts and bolts of what human resources departments do. And the idea was that we would be able to pool resources and take advantage of economies of scale from the 2 organizations. We obviously, like we said earlier, had to recuse, had to ask Director Cox to recuse herself from the conversation, as she is employed by Salud para la Gente. Before we move on to the other 3 items before us, so the 3 proposals before us and the recommendations that we had for that, we wanted to have the conversation just generally about the Salud para la Gente proposal, and then also share the ad hoc committee's recommendation as to how we want to move forward with this and take action before we allow Director Cox to come back in and join us for the rest of the discussion around the 3 other proposals. And so is the next slide the recommendation. So as we weighed the pluses and the drawbacks of potentially entering into a partnership with Salud para la Gente or these or what they had proposed, we both realized that for both organizations, in terms of where we're at in both for various reasons, that this would likely not be the right time for us to enter into agreement to pool our human resources human resources systems and just such a large scale way of what the proposal was for us. And so the recommendation from the ad hoc committee and Joe and Steve and anyone else that was a part of the discussions around the ad hoc or around this proposal in the ad hoc committee. Happy to have you add in any additional context. But the recommendation from the board is that we not move forward with this proposal and continue our partnership with Salud para la Gente in all the ways that we partner with today, but not specifically to pool human resources between the two organizations. So, Joe, please.
Sort of, I agree with what's written, a couple of background details. Salute has somewhere in the order of 500 employees. We have different systems. It would be a huge infrastructure change to merge those two things. I think that's the background. It's meant to say infrastructure change.
Yeah. And so I think with that, that's a recommendation. There it is. The recommendation from the ad hoc committee to the board is to pass a motion to decline the external partnership proposal from Salud para la Gente. And then also to direct staff to continue strengthening the partnership with Salud in other ways, especially with all of the ongoing action at the federal level currently. We can, for the rest of the board, I'll open it up to questions and comments, and then we'll have to go out for public comment on this as well. But any questions from the rest of the board or from the board for the ad hoc?
It was in the report, and I think even worth to it, but I just wanted to hear that again, that this is something Salud supports, but not moving forward, given everything that's going on. Yeah, and it makes sense for us, for sure. Given everything. Thank you.
Alex, any questions before we open it up to public comment?
No, no questions at this time. It makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, well, so now we'll open up to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item online, please raise your hand. And Rosie, if you could, please call on them and unmute them and let them speak.
We do not see any raised hands yet.
Okay. We'll come back online if there are any raised hands. Anyone in person wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back and for any additional discussion and also entertain a motion.
I move the recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Director Gallagher was first, I believe. Who was second?
I made the motions. Marcus. Second was Marcus.
Thank you. Directors Gallagher and Pimentel. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox is recused. Director Friel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yes.
Director Pimentel,
Yes.
and Chair Nunez.
Yes. Okay. Someone fetch. Dr. Cox.
I just sent her a text.
You could sort of verbally let her know.
Yeah.
What it is, and
Yeah.
then move on to the next one. That's.
Okay, so just want to, with Director Cox back in the room with us, just want to announce that we, the board on a 4-0-1 vote, just voted to decline the proposal before us from Salud para la Gente, and also gave direction to staff to continue to strengthen the partnership between Wausau Community Hospital and that. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7. This is a continuation of our discussion around the External Partnerships Ad hoc Committee update and recommendations. And this is on the other 3 responses to the RFP. And we're going to start with Common Spirit. Steve, would you like to?
You want me to do this one now?
Yeah.
Okay. You're tired of talking. Sure, so we got a response from Common Spirit Health, which, as Tony mentioned, runs Dominican Hospital and a number of other medical offices and clinics here in Dignity Medical Foundation locally. So their RFP response offered to bring value and capability to Watsonville Community Hospital by entering into a management services agreement. The management functions could include executive management, finance, supply chain, resource management, strategy and marketing, quality and regulatory, legal, risk, compliance, information technology, human resources, and others. And they list possible benefits as the ability to retain district oversight through current board structure, access to common spirit resources and tools, and defined accountability for achieving jointly developed performance objectives. That was from their RFP. So I think the way we structured this, Tony, is to go through sort of the high levels of each, which I can do, and then we'll sort of hear from you and Director Gallagher on the summary and the reaction from the ad hoc committee and the recommendations from there. So the next one we received was from Sutter Health, which, as folks know, has a specialty hospital here in Santa Cruz County and a number of other hospitals in Northern California, as well as Palo Alto Medical Foundation clinics here in the community. Their RFP response offered a partnership using the management services, or MSA, management services agreement model that would enable Sutter to support the district and the hospital. As written, the district would continue to retain full ownership and governance control over Watsonville Community Hospital, while Sutter would provide integrated management and operations for WCH's day-to-day functions as part of a clinically integrated system that includes Sutter's network of hospitals, medical foundations, and clinics. And they describe the possible benefits to include district and its board retaining ownership and governance over the hospital and its direction, improved incentives for both the district and Sutter to grow services locally, and improved access to specialty care and information systems. And the final response we received was from Kaiser Permanente, which, as we know, Watsonville Community Hospital has been a Kaiser Permanente health plan hospital since 2017 and serves as its plan affiliated hospital for Santa Cruz County and its Northern Monterey County expansion. And Kaiser's RFP response expressed interest in the potential lease and build out of shelled space at 65 Nielsen, our medical office building adjacent to the hospital, for specialty provider offices, exam rooms, and ancillary support. The clinic space would be leased at a fair market value and house TPMG providers caring for Kaiser Health Plan members. They list the possible benefits as Kaiser specialists being on site and therefore more likely to utilize hospital services such as procedure, operating room space, and diagnostic services. There's also the potential for new services to come to the Pajaro Valley service area, depending on what Kaiser would decide to put in that space in collaboration with us.
Okay. So we received these proposals, as Steve said, back in October, and since then we've been, as the ad hoc committee, looking into which ones fit best for the vision of the hospital and for the healthcare district, and also which ones fit in line with the guiding principles that we determined with the community. So just kind of the overall discussions that we had, the Sutter and the Common Spirit MSA proposals both speak to the employment of the executive leadership as a key component. And for us, for the ad hoc committee, that contradicted one of the guiding principles that said that the board and constituents, that the board and constituents included in the RFP. And so that one of the guiding principles was that we wanted to retain the day-to-day operations and the direction of the hospital. And both of those potential proposals, those proposals that came into us, either initially started off as saying that they would take over full control of the C-suite administration of Watsonville Community Hospital, or that would not be a requirement to enter into the agreement, but that it would later become a part of the agreement down the road. Knowing that, that was against the guiding principles, we had conversations with both Common Spirit and with Sutter Health about, having a there about, we can't do that. We won't do that. That doesn't fall in line with our vision for the hospital and for the healthcare district. Is there anything else that we can do in order to still come to a possible proposal, to a possible agreement for the improvement of, local healthcare services here. The discussions with Common Spirit, ended up, going forward, into more of an administrative services potential where they're offering us access to some of their services that would help the day-to-day operations of the hospital, such as purchasing agreements and those sorts of things. The conversations with Sutter Health also included some of the potential to partner on individual clinic services and line growth, service line growth, excuse me, with the ad hoc committee feels that we should be able to pursue for the benefit of the board with ad hoc direction, direct participation. And then the Kaiser one was more about the rental of the shell space of the medical office building. And this one was one that as we initially received it, made sense for us. And as we had discussions about the possibility of entering into a larger management services agreement with either Common Spirit or with Sutter, we said that we would first investigate those two proposals and see if that matched, our vision for the hospital, and then come back to that proposal. Joe, anything that you want to add?
No, I think you got, well, at some point I'd like to mention John Speaks. whether
Oh, right.
now or later.
That's probably a good time now.
Jonathan Speaks with a consultant who was involved in this process. He's got very experienced in all of this thing. With our input, he wrote the draft and multiple revisions. So he acted, I think, in a remarkably useful way, a smart, experienced guy. So I'd just like to thank him for his work and all that.
I think the next.
The recommendations.
So the recommendation before the board tonight, and I know there will be a lot of questions and happy to answer any of those questions, is to pass a motion that for three things. One is to decline the external partnership proposal from Common Spirit for a management service agreement. The second one is to decline the external partnership proposal from Sutter Health for a management services agreement. And then number three is to continue discussions with Kaiser Permanente on a potential lease and build out of the shell space on the first floor of 65 Nielsen Street. The other thing before us, the recommendation from the ad hoc committee is to direct staff to continue conversations with both Common Spirit and Sutter Health about how we can continue to partner in other ways and refocus the conversations around support services and clinical service line integration and growth. And then also to reach back out to those that we sent the RFP out to and have continued conversations with them about the potential partnerships with them that might bring new services and help the day-to-day operations of the hospital. And just for the board, we can pass a motion that has all three of the motions, or we can handle them individually if we would like to and have conversations around them that way as well too. But with that being said, Joe, unless there's anything else you'd like to add to the recommendation, I'll open it up to questions and just the general comments. I know there's probably a lot from the board about this recommendation before us today.
Question on Kaiser on their use of space. Have they indicated how much space would their services be in conflict with anything they're doing? Would they be competing with?
Their RFP proposes to rent just about all of our shell space. So that would be, we'd start the negotiations there and see what they were thinking.
They have over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or are they ready to go in the next year, next months?
They didn't propose a timeline in their written document.
And that affect any of the people currently there?
No. I mean, there would be construction as we renovated and they renovated the interior of the space, but there's no intent to push anybody out. Yeah, and they weren't talking about spaces where the leases are, gonna expire soon or anything like that. It was just the empty shelf space.
Let me ask, so in that, again, in that same space, did they indicate any deal breaker if we weren't able to accommodate all the square footage each one? I mean, it seemed like they were flexible, like if they use 80% of our space, that'd be fine, or they really want to square foot. I was wondering about like what other opportunities there might be for using that space just in case. Now I'm ready to lease it. You got vacant space, right? And you should be turning that into rental income. I was just more curious about, was there a deal breaker in their mindset if they needed it all or nothing?
So it was really just a single written response that was just a couple pages long, so they didn't get into those details. I'd love to have that conversation with them. They wanted to hear sort of the board's formal response to the RFP process before they really got into those kinds of discussions. So haven't had the opportunity to ask questions like that, but they're good ones.
Please, it's really a comment. I think we, as Coastal Health Partners, need some of that shelf space. And I think that's part of that discussion. And there's 18,000 square feet of space for rent a block away in the building there. So I think all of those things are sort of in those discussions. Should be in those discussions.
Alex, I can't see you, but any questions about either of these three proposals?
The one about the one about Kaiser and the continuation of discussion of the rental, I'm wondering if there will be any allocation in the clause to say if the hospital needs that space back, like how would we work that? I mean, we're renting it out, but what if the hospital expands or needs to include other services? So just wanted to kind of put that out there. Is there a clause for that in there?
Yeah, I would imagine that once we begin discussions with Kaiser Permanente, that that all of those options will be on the table in terms of how we decide to move forward with that proposal. And I think that from an operational standpoint, in terms of the ad hoc committee and where we go from here, I believe that we'll probably wind down the ad hoc committee, and those discussions will happen with our administration and their leaders as well. So I think the role of the ad hoc committee was to ensure that this was transparent and it was a clear process for those involved and for all of our partners and for the community and our staff, and to find and see if there was a potential partnerships we can enter into this and make a recommendation for the rest of the board to discuss and to make a motion on. And I believe we've followed through on that. And so now we've gone out, we've seen what folks are interested in partnering with us on. And now I think the work of squaring away some of these partnerships and other ones that might be available to us goes back to our leadership team.
And if I could just add one response to Alex and sort of your question too, Marcus, is if we do come to agreement on, a portion or most of this space, it would be a large enough real estate transaction where it would come back to the board for approval to get that opportunity to talk about what's in it.
This may be a general question for the board members serve on the ad hoc and staff. We know the three that are here are four that responded to the proposal. Were there others that you had talked to that were intriguing? I mean, there was other folks in the room at the time. Were there others that we thought were interested to respond and maybe we were disappointed with? I don't need names, but I'm just curious. Were there others who were closer to submitting something that might have been interesting and didn't, or were these really the four that were in it all along? These three here, and
I think the only one that we thought we might receive a response from that we didn't was UCSF, because they actually came here to a board meeting. And there was a provider who is getting, re-getting his privileges here and gonna be doing procedures here, who came and spoke and was like, this would be great, I hope we can be part of it. For whatever reason, their administrative leadership chose not to submit anything. So I think that's one of the organizations we'll reach back out to and say, hey,
how are things going now? Like, is there, or are there things we can do together?
Yeah, any other questions before we open it up to public comment?
No more questions, but I just want to say thank you to the ad hoc committee, and there's so many meetings behind the scenes and so much time. And I really appreciate your commitment to the process and to transparency and to bringing like this beautiful motion all ready for us. So I really appreciate
Thank
it
you.
to both of you.
Yeah, time flew, right, Joe? I think as we put this thing together and as we were looking into the different proposals that were before us. Okay, with that being said, then, if there's no other questions for the ad hoc committee, I'll open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item online, please raise your hand. Rosie, if you see any raised hands, please, call them.
Do not see any at this time.
Okay, come back online. Anyone wishing to speak on this item in person? Please.
Want me to stand up?
Yes, that'd be great. Stand up.
For the Kaiser proposal, was, I can't remember if I heard you say this or not, was there gonna be potential for having specialists that would also be in-house that inpatient would benefit from? Or were they just going to truly lease space and just see their patients?
Can
Yeah.
can I answer?
Yeah.
I mean, I might as well answer it. I know it's not unusual, but I think it's to be determined. I think that's part of the conversation with Kaiser, and that's the ongoing conversation with Kaiser is the specialties that they need, some of which are hospital consulting, some of which are not, right? Some of which are, you know, ancillary to their primary care mission. And so I think it would be my guess is it would be a mixture of both. But I would we'd certainly be pushing for, I know Phyllis said, I would be pushing for as many, you know, surgical and procedural specialists who can take all of the ER as possible, but that may not be with what they're thinking. But, you know, if we can have that sort of dialogue and discussion with them, I'm sure they're gonna have a business plan of what makes sense for their growth. And to the extent that we can have those be as physicians that are helpful on the inpatient side, it's gonna be to our benefit, so. We don't know yet.
Please.
Any discussion on Epic?
Yeah, not in the, not in Kaiser's RFP, I'll tell you that.
I know. I'm gonna not allow the question just from a Brown Act. And there are questions we can ask them after, but just comments at this time. Any other comments on this item? Or bring it back to the board for more discussion and a potential motion? Okay. Any further discussion from the board on the recommendation before us and any leaning any way to passing this all as one complete motion or splitting them up into 2 or 3 motions or?
I'm happy to make a motion that considers all three again. Oh, so I move the recommendation and to direct staff.
All right. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Was that Directors Gallagher and Cox, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Friel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yes.
Director Pimentel,
Yes, and I'm gonna just add a comment. This is my moment to say thank you. Just, I recognize the staff and the team and, you know, this was a very, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into kind of start. We had a vision for it, and I really appreciate all the work and effort that went into it, including coming back to this board several times, refining the parameters, refining the scope of what we do want, and what we definitely don't want. And I think it led to this really strong recommendation. So thank you to everybody who showed up to all the meetings we had before on this, and to all the staff's work on this. With that, it's a yes.
thank you. And last but not least, Chair Denise.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Move on to item number 8, and that is the Measure N Independent Citizens Bond Oversight Committee member appointments. Steve, you want to tee us up on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'll recall, when Measure N was written, the measure included a promise to the community that we would have an independent citizens oversight committee to ensure that the bond money was being spent in the way that voters had approved and the way that general obligation bonds are required to be spent. And so we had a group of folks come together after we received self-nominations from the community and have brought to me a list of community members who we are proposing as the inaugural members to the Measure N Independent Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And those members are listed on your agenda. They are Kermit Butch Cole, Fred Castillo, Julie Lambert, Stefan Jaskulek, Raymond Cancino, and Caroline Icecamp. And so we respectfully submit those names to the board for consideration for the Bond Oversight Committee, which we would anticipate would have its first meeting within the next few months, and I believe the bylaws say would meet twice a year.
Any questions for the ad hoc committee who selected these and is bringing forward this recommendation? That was just as a reminder, myself and Director Gallagher.
The question is, we're appointing 6 members, we're allowed to have 7. Appointing Robert Keno was 6, the preferred number we were looking at. And maybe speak to the 3 who applied, and I don't want to get into the why, but just maybe just talk about why the 6, opposed to 7 or 5.
Yeah, I can talk to the 6. We felt like those 6 had the qualifications that we were looking for, and also with trying to avoid issues of having quorum to have the meetings in the future. We all understand that these are all folks who are committed to the community and to the hospital. They're also folks who have many things going on in their day jobs and their lives as well too. And so the vote for the 6 was a combination of all those different factors. So, Joe, if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think it's kosher to say 2 of the other 3 people were disqualified for reasons of employment and or where they live.
Any other questions or comments before I open it up to public comment? Okay, I'll open up to public comment on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on item number 8, please raise your hand. Rosie, any raised hands online?
No hands online.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak on this item here in person?
There is
Please.
one, it looks like there's one hand.
Oh, we do have one now. Yes. Erica Padilla, I will ask you to unmute.
Yeah, good evening, members of the board. Thank you so much for your hard work for our lovely hospital. Just a question, is it possible when you identify the ad hoc committee members, if you could kindly note the community of residents? Greatly would appreciate knowing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Senator Johnson. I appreciate the nomination. Honored to participate and to help out with the Bond Oversight Committee. I am Chief Financial Officer of a Richard Price signed packet of a special district up in Silicon Valley. And we also had a $300 million bond issuance back in 2014. I started at 15, and one of the first things to do was to set up the Bond Oversight Committee. So I've got that experience to help out, and it'll also be interesting to sit on the other side of the table for a change. Appreciate the nomination. Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else, in the room with us, wishing to speak on this item, or any other raised hands online, Rosie?
No more raised hands online yet, anyway?
Okay, seeing no, other public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for any closing comments and a motion.
Those comments are, this is a really fine board committee, so just nice job on this selection. I really like the names that are here. They're all members who care a lot about this hospital and this community. Okay, good work.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who put your name in and also in this process. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, just, before we put together a motion, I just want to say for all the folks who did submit, for everyone who, was willing to serve, just thank you for your willingness to give up some of your time. I know it's only 2 meetings throughout the year, but it's really critical that we have good bond oversight, and we're making sure that the board is following through on the community's vision for Measure N. And just appreciate you dedicating your time and volunteering your efforts to this. Okay, with that, if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Was the first Gallagher and second Pimentel?
Other way around, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Friel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher,
Yeah.
Director Pimentel,
Yes.
and Chair Nunez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Good night.
Thank you, Rosie.